Hey guys, if you have a Nissan S-Chassis turbo, most likely from an S13, S14 or a S15, there's a good possibility that you're actually confused about what turbo you actually have. And that's because there's so much conflicting information and you cannot believe everything that you see or read. Well, except for this video, you can believe everything here. So, do you have a ball bearing turbo? Coming up. In this video, I'm going to mention 5 points so that you can check if you have a ball bearing turbo. I have done quite a bit of research, sifting through all the conflicting information, and I'm also a member of the Nissan 200SX Owners Club of South Africa. I'll put a link to their Facebook page somewhere here. They're a good bunch of guys, always willing to help. And some of the information in this video I actually obtained from chatting on the group. Thanks guys. To give you a quick summary, the S13 came out with a Garrett T28 journal bearing turbo. The S14 and S15s came out with a Garrett T28 turbo. Apparently, all the Japanese S14 and S15 models had ball bearing turbos. But the Australian and the European models mostly had journal bearing turbos. There were, however, a lucky handful that had the ball bearing turbos. So just because you have a S14 or S15 turbo does not mean that it is a ball bearing turbo. And that is why I decided to make this video. Let's get to point number 1. If you have a ball bearing turbo, after you switch your car off, you will hear the compressor wheel in the turbo still spinning. I hope you guys could hear that. Point number 2. By simply spinning the turbine or the compressor wheel, you'll notice a difference in friction between a ball bearing and a journal bearing. Now this is a Garrett T28 journal bearing turbo. I'm going to spin the turbine wheel. And you can see that it only spins for a second and then stops. A ball bearing turbo will carry on spinning for a lot longer due to less friction. Point number 3. A journal bearing turbo has 4 bolts on the exhaust housing. 1, 2, 3, and lastly 4. A ball bearing turbo apparently has 6 bolts. Point number 4. If you have a look into the oil drain hole at the bottom of the turbo and you see an 8mm thick shaft, then it's a journal bearing. If on the other hand you see 2 bushings butting up against each other within a cartridge, then it's a ball bearing. Let me try to show you what I mean. So that's the top of the turbo. If we turn it over, this is the oil drain hole. Not sure if you guys are going to be able to see that, but if you look in there you can see it's just a shaft. I'll show you diagrams which might better depict that. This is what I was referring to. So when we had a look into the oil drain hole, this is what we saw. It's an 8mm shaft and it's of a journal bearing. But on the other hand, if you look into the oil drain hole and you see a cartridge like that with a hole and bushings inside, then you know it's a ball bearing turbo. Point number 5. If you see an oil restrictor inside the oil feed on top of the turbo, chances are it has a ball bearing system, as they do not require as much oil pressure as what journal bearing systems do. Point number 6. You can have a look at the nameplate on the center housing rotating assembly of the turbo and just Google the part numbers to see if it's journal bearing or ball bearing. Here is the nameplate. The numbers are not going to be visible on camera, so I have written them down. This first part is the Nissan part number and the second part is the Garrett part number. Now I already know from my searches that the 466543 determines that it is a journal bearing turbo. The numbers engraved on my turbo in the S13 are these, and the 466541 determines that it is a ball bearing turbo. Apparently the 1441191F00 is the turbo that everyone wants.
I've got it.
And that is the ball bearing turbo. The 1441175F00 is the journal bearing turbo. There are other part numbers, but these seem to be the two most common ones in terms of ball bearing and journal bearing. Another thing you can do is go to the Garrett website, garrett.honeywell.com, product search, and you can enter the Garrett part number over here. Let's take the journal bearing turbo, these numbers here, and I'm just going to input that quick. 466543. Okay, you can see it comes up, and there we go, 200SX, so it's one of these. You can also search using the Nissan part number, so let's input that over here. 1441175F00, and there it is, it comes up. And again, you can see that it's a 200SX. There's the Garrett part number. That's it for determining if you have a ball bearing turbo. If you have one, comment below, let me know. And please remember to like the video and subscribe. Cheers guys.